You are listening to the Spiritual Warrior Coach with Barbara Savin, the podcast for discovering how powerful your wisdom, compassion, and courage is. Get ready to join Barbara and her guests as they explore and offer you advice on how to reclaim your power, your energy, and your authentic self. And now, here's the host of the show, Barbara Savin.
Well, thank you for joining me today, and welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. I am your host, Barbara Savin, and I am here to help you reclaim your energy, your power, and your authentic self. You know, I am a certified clinical and medical hypnotherapist, Reiki master and teacher, energy healing specialist, life coach, and best-selling author of Gentle Energy Touch, the Beginner's Guide to Hands-on Healing. You know, I have been helping my clients for over 35 years. The older I get, the more wisdom seems to come through. So isn't it time that you believe in yourself? You know, your mind is going to provide you with your greatest challenges in life because it's so very, very powerful. So let's use that mind for positive thinking, creating harmony, balance, peace, love, happiness, and anything else that your heart desires, because one day the world will tap you on your shoulder and say, this is your time to shine. And speaking about shining, boy, do I have a shining guest today. Hi, Bethany, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I'm going to tell my listeners a little bit about you. Yeah. Bethany Nicole, she is a Los Angeles-based author. She's a freelance writer and relationship expert. And she recently completed her breakout book, Apologies I Never Forget, a book about dating and relationship horror stories. And I know we all have them. So welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So what made you decide to get into this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it really kind of found me, as our life paths generally seem to do. You know, I have a background in social work. I worked in child protective services for several years, working with families in crisis and children, and kind of seeing how, you know, relationship dynamics play out, how family dynamics work, and kind of just getting the baseline, I think, for my work. And then I kind of began embracing more of the spiritual, and my degree is actually in philosophy. So I feel like I really just kind of combined those two aspects into what I do now, working with individuals and couples on one-on-one basis or through my writing, just kind of working with people to kind of see what's going on in their relationships, their love lives. And you know, it really is just the foundation of everything else we do. So I feel like it's just such important work to really get in there and see what's going on and what's holding us back.
Oh, it truly is, because many of the times it's us not believing in ourselves and us not loving ourselves and thinking the other person, you know, we've married somebody or dating somebody because they're going to save us or something like that.
Right, exactly. So much of relationships are about ourselves, and you know, our partners are so much mirrors for us of what's going on inside of us, what we feel like we deserve, and you know, the energetics behind relationships and dating. You know, you hear people saying like, I feel like I'm just dating the same person over and over, and it really is just about kind of what you feel you deserve and the energy you're putting out and what you're allowing to come back in. And, you know, so much of that really is just about ourselves and our work.
Without it, I know that, you know, I'm married 52 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Long time. And we actually know one another for 56 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I say. Wow. But like with him and I feel the reason that I mean, don't get me wrong, we have our ups and downs, we kill each other and fight and everything else, but the most important aspect I feel is communication.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, just community, you know, communication and saying what's on your mind in a very nice manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing yourself enough to know what is on your mind and being able to kind of disconnect from the emotion a little bit of like, okay, this is really triggering me. Why is this triggering me? Is this about them? Is this about me? And where can we meet in the middle on it? I feel like it's just so huge because, you can say a lot of words without really saying anything. So I think it's so important to know yourself so that the communication you're giving is useful and effective and not just talking to talk or, kind of guessing at what you're feeling. And I just think, yeah, that's just so huge, being able to get on the same level and really know yourself and know your partner.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of a relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
And to understand that once those words come out of your mouth, you can't take them back.
You can't take them back. And I think that's, you can apologize, but you can't take them back. And I think all of us have done that. And I think that's a huge thing, that you run into with couples and stuff too, is like, it's really hard to let that go once it's been said, once it's out there. So I think getting to the point where you learn, your fighting styles, your compatibility, like how people handle stress or crisis, like I think that really helps navigate so that those things aren't being said. Because if you have a couple who, one person really needs to step back and take a break and the other person is really still pushing to have the conversation, like that's where you get those things coming out that don't need to be said. And that's, kind of where I try to work with the person who's still pushing really hard to have the conversation. It's like, but you don't want to hear those things because they're not, genuinely what this person feels. So, taking a break is hard if you're one of those people who wants to get it all figured out. But it's like, honestly, that's much more worth your time than cornering someone. And then now you're mad about a whole new topic because now they've said something,
Oh, I know. They have a tendency to push those buttons.
They push, and then they get something they don't want coming back. And now you're off on a whole nother thing. And it's like, no, just if they are saying to you, I need a break from this, like just give them a break, like give them 10 minutes, like everyone just respect that about each other. But, couples with different fighting styles, that can be really tough for them to navigate.
Yeah, I know my husband tends to stand back a little bit. And then when I see him standing back a little bit, I tell myself, just be quiet. Don't do that more, with the
I'm very, I think we've talked a little bit like astrology. I'm an Aries and I'm very like fine with confrontation. It doesn't bother me. I can have the conversation right then and there, and I want to have it right then and there. So that's been something I learned a lot too, is that like everyone's not like that. Everyone doesn't like confrontation or isn't okay with that. Like it phases people very differently, like, and so I think that's something I personally too have had to learn of, okay, they're not in that space to have this conversation, or, that's definitely one of mine that I've had to learn with different relationships.
Oh yeah. And I always say to myself, if someone's, and not just my husband, I mean, anybody, like friends or whomever, trying to push my buttons, I tell myself, don't allow them to take your energy away from you.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't give them that power. Yeah.
Right. Which a lot of people don't understand, because once it's a back and forth thing, you end up drained and then they end up, they're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
They're good to go. and you're crying and hurt. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do that. I mean, it's crazy making, I call it.
It is. But I mean, I really think it does come down to like getting out of our own heads of, everyone experiences things differently. So, conflict to someone is fine, and conflict to another person, even just, especially with, I think, men, who aren't really used to dealing in the realm of emotions, even just having a conversation with them saying like, this is how I feel, can be taken like really as an aggressive move, because they're just not used to like dealing in that realm. So they don't really know what to say to that sometimes. And, women can obviously have that too. And I think it can also play into like your attachment style. Like if you're very avoidant attachment style, then, having that kind of conversation might be really tough. But like, for me as an Aries, as, someone who works in these fields, like those conversations just roll off my back. Like I'm not bothered by them, but everyone's not like that. So, and I've dated people who aren't like that. And, that's been like, a lesson for sure. And I see it play out with clients and stuff too, where it's just like, okay, they're not like that.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm a Virgo, so I'm not quite sure. I know we're tough individuals, but
yeah, I can see. Yeah, Virgos are usually pretty good with tough conversations because they're not as like highly reactive or as emotional. They're very like, they could actually have that kind of conversation and get to the bottom of it, but they can cause big reactions in other people because they're not particularly emotional with that. So if you have someone who's really emotional, then that can make them very reactive because they're like, well, do you not feel bad, or do you not feel this or that? And the Virgo's like, well, that's neither here nor there. Like, what we're trying to get to is X, Y, or Z. So they're very like focused, but I think with having the conversations, they're usually good if it's solution based. They're not good at just fighting to fight. They're not going to start something. They're going to be very like, what is the point of this? What are we trying to get to?
That's exactly how I am. I say, all right, what do we get? What are you doing? Let's figure out, let's figure out, a solution.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very Virgo vibes.
Yeah, and like sometimes he tells him, you're so logical. No, it's not being logical. It's just being, maybe grounded and centered and balanced.
They're very grounded. Virgo's earth sign. They're very grounded. They're very centered. Yeah, they're very good at that. What is your husband? Do you know?
Virgo.
He's a Virgo? He's just on the other end of the scale.
He must be. Well, I'm the 30s, the 14th. So
okay, yeah. So you guys are on the opposite spectrums of Virgo. That can make a little difference too in like how it plays out in relationships. But yeah.
Yeah. So
you're the more solid Virgo.
I hope so. But let me ask you, I know with COVID, it's probably been just absolutely crazy to date. And some people go on dating apps. Like, is there any dating apps that you shouldn't do, or huge mistakes? Probably quite many of them. I don't know. I've never been in my life on a dating app.
Right, because you've been married. Yeah, you don't know the struggle.
No, I don't.
I mean, I think it really depends on what you're after. If you're looking for something really casual, then that's kind of where like Tinder gets a bad rap because it's very, if you're going on Tinder for a relationship, you might really struggle because it's definitely gotten more of, I'm not sure it really started this way, but it definitely now has kind of gotten to like more of a casual, maybe even a hookup type vibe.
Oh, okay.
But then you have things like Bumble, which can kind of go either way. And then Hinge is kind of one of the newer ones. And that's the one that's a little more tied towards relationships, longer term. And then you have like the older ones of like eHarmony, Match.com, which are really meant for like, if you're really ready for the long term of like a marriage commitment.
Oh.
So there's kind of a spectrum. And I think really the ones, you have to be careful on all of them. Obviously, you have to like use your intellect and your intuition and all of these things. And, but I think if you can really navigate what you're looking for out of it and get into one of the apps that's a little more tailored to that, not that you won't have some overlap, like you could have, be on Hinge and have someone just looking for something casual, but, they also have the apps where you disclose that, where you say what you're looking for, so you can kind of navigate through that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing to avoid is like not knowing what the app's about and then getting on it, because otherwise you could just really get a lot of disappointment or weirdness or.
Yeah, I would say so. Is there somewhere where like people can go to find out what these apps are? Or
I mean, there's not like anything official because I don't know that the apps really want to disclose that, as far as like, some of them do, right? Some of them are pretty clear. But I like, eHarmony and Match.com are very clear. Like this is like long-term, but I'm not sure. Most apps are probably not going to say like, we're really hookup based. Like Tinder comes about as close as I think most of them marketing wise are ever going to. But you can Google it and like, you can see, articles that kind of break down like what most of the apps, are for. And you're going to have outliers. Like you're going to have someone who maybe met their partner, their husband or spouse on Tinder. You're going to have outliers, but you're going to have, I think, kind of, you'll get a general idea of maybe this one's more for this or this one's more for that.
So they should really do their research.
You should definitely do your research.
I
Absolutely. I always encourage that. And you can tell, I think, too, like just from when you get on them and are going through, you can see some of the pictures and if you're going on Tinder, a lot of the pictures are shirtless guys or, like party pictures, and you can kind of get the vibe. Whereas like if you go on Hinge, you might see more of like people in, suits or like more professional, or maybe they're on a hike or like, it just looks a little bit more, even professional, I guess. And then you can see a lot more info too of like what they do, where they're from, and then I think it's on Bumble for sure. I think Hinge has an option for it too, where you can say looking for something casual, something serious, long-term,
okay.
So you can kind of disclose that information too. And so I think if you're on one of the apps and you're seeing a lot of what you're not interested in, there's no shame in like deleting that one and trying a different one. But, I think too, some of them you do have to let them calibrate a little bit and get you in the right algorithm. That's what I usually encourage for people who are on Hinge, and like give that one at least like a month, because once it really, I've seen a lot of success stories from that one. Because once it calibrates and gets you in the right categories, it really does seem to start matching people up fairly well.
Oh, so that's that. Now, let me ask you a question. I know if I were dating now, I would definitely not give them my home address. I would meet them somewhere because, but some of my friends actually have them pick them up, and I tell them, no, you don't.
No, dude. Yeah, you really, there's a documentary out, I think it's on Hulu right now, about like dating app horror stories. And it really does get your attention, because there's one story on there where the girl like kind of does everything right, and she still, has a really horrible experience. And so I think that's kind of like a good lesson for us all to remember, like, they're very common now, but again, like, you really don't know who these people are. Like, this guy had used a fake name, all these different things. And like, so I always like to kind of Google them or look at their Instagram or like, I would check them out. Because we do get really complacent with it. But again, like, I think, you do have to be careful. You really don't even want to necessarily give them your phone number until you feel really ready, like, to take a next step with them. Like, I wouldn't just pass that out in the first chat. I think it would be something, even, FaceTiming is obviously really big right now during the pandemic. But I think even that, you just kind of want to be as careful as you can until you feel like you have a good base of knowledge of them.
That's how I feel. And even meeting them, you just never know. It takes a while.
It does. And that's kind of too why I usually recommend for people to do something really casual, like go grab coffee, or, if you're comfortable, like going down the street to a bar and grabbing a drink. Obviously being careful with alcohol of any kind on a first date with someone you don't know, but if you feel comfortable with that, even like a local bar that the bartender or something, like, because, when people get into things like, hiking is obviously a big thing here, but it's like, depending on the trail, you could be really isolated with that person. And
I know.
So I always kind of, and even just a long dinner date, like, you just really, if you meet them and within the first 5 minutes, you're like, this person's nuts. Like, you don't want to have to sit through an entire dinner. And, I think especially for women in general, like, rejecting someone is really tough on us. Like, emotionally, we feel bad, or we're also really taught by society to not do that. So I think how, difficult it would be to, in the middle of dinner, just get up and leave, versus if you go grab coffee, finish your coffee, and you're like, all right, well, it was good to meet you, and then you're done. So
I would suggest that also. And I do tell my friends, I tell them, you need to just go to Starbucks or somewhere where it's,
Yeah.
don't find yourself alone, because you just
No. And then of course too, like, having friends that are kind of aware, like even just like, hey, I'm going on this coffee date, this is where we're going, and then shooting them like, oh, it was awful, or like, oh, it was great, when you're done, just kind of letting them have a safety net too, I think is really big, because yeah, you just really don't ever know, even if it's just, even on the safer end, if it's just a bad time, like, and they're just not a match, do you really want to sit through an entire dinner with them, or like a whole 2.5-hour hike? Like, is that really what you want to do? Like,
I can't even do that with a friend sometimes.
Right? Like, save that for down the road.
You want to, leave. You don't want to run. But so, do you think because of like the COVID and stuff, it actually made us more aware or taught us more about dating? Or
I think it taught us a lot about relationships, for sure, in the sense that, so many people went into COVID maybe in a relationship, and a lot of them did not come out of COVID and won, or didn't make it halfway through or whatever. And I think we've, especially in LA probably, but everywhere, we've really noticed that these shallow connections, they don't work. They don't stand the test of time, because life gets real. And whether that happens now during a global pandemic, or even if it's like, somebody gets sick or somebody loses a job or whatever it is, like, you can't base these relationships on these really exterior things, because when the rubber meets the road, there's nothing there. There's no foundation that's been built. And so I think that's what we're really learning, and, kind of moving forward with in 2022, you see a lot of like people saying, I'm just not dealing with this anymore. That's not enough for me, whatever it is, getting really clear about their boundaries and what they want, what they don't want. And I think it's great to see us moving towards that, because I think COVID really rocked a lot of, relationships, like even long marriages didn't make it, just because, they just really weren't prepared enough for when life gets that real, Yeah, if you don't have a solid foundation, and you're, you got together because he was a cool executive with this nice car, and then all of that's gone, and there's nothing else there, then you're not going to make it through. Like, you're not going to go anywhere with that.
So do you think, like being more aware or spiritual, more mindful, actually can play a role in dating?
Absolutely. I think so much of, our spiritual connections is what holds us, and the energies between us, and just being, even if you're not spiritual, I guess, maybe just mindful, just being very mindful in your dating of, and intentional, right? Like being very intentional about what you want to bring in, what kind of partner do you want, what do you need out of a partner? And I think that's a huge question that people are now starting to ask themselves that they haven't before. I've had clients where I'm like, well, what are you looking for in a partner? And they're just like, I don't know. And you're like, okay, well, now I see why we might not be getting too far with dating. Okay. So, you've got to at least ask yourself these questions and get to this level, and then be really mindful about, your partner. And that doesn't mean like they have to have blonde hair and wear this type of cologne, and it doesn't have to be like that, but it does have to be really specific as far as what you're going to allow and what you're not. Are you okay? And even, it's no judgment, right? But are you okay with someone who makes less money but is more passionate about their career? Or are you more concerned with the financial stability? Like, to each his own, but you just have to be really clear, because otherwise you're just getting into something that's going to fail.
Without a doubt. So, and I know a lot of my clients get into relationships, and they know it's really not working out. And then there's a huge breakup. And a lot of them, find it challenging to survive it. Yet they knew that he or she wasn't right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's tough, just when you've invested time, emotion, energy. And, I think a lot of it too is we really are, bonded beings. We're meant to be with each other and in partnerships or groups or whatever. We're not lone wolves necessarily. So when we do have that closeness with someone, even if it's not, maybe the exact way we want it to be, that's a huge loss to our physical, to our emotional, to our space, to everything. It even hits on survival stuff. If you're alone in the woods versus if you have someone in the woods with you, your survival's higher. And I think we intrinsically know that. So I think I think a loss of a partner affects us on a lot of levels, even if it's the right thing to do. And I think the partnerships that end where everyone's totally fine, I think they've really already emotionally and probably even somewhat physically separated themselves from each other by the time that happens. But breakups hurt, and they should hurt, even if, even if they're not right. I mean, they're supposed to be a loss, and that doesn't mean you won't have something more beautiful to gain down the way. But, it just shows that you cared, you were attached, you were bonded, and that was a loss.
I know. And even, just with friends and, colleagues and all that, sometimes it's challenging to walk away and try to survive and know that, it's probably best for us to walk away. And I look at it as sometimes it's just the universe trying to tell us something, or it's just not meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, if you look at it that we're, meant to be learning things from everything and everyone, then, once your time with that person or that lesson's been done, then, it's just time to let them go. I mean, everyone doesn't come with you the whole way through. We all have, friends from high school that maybe we don't talk to, we don't have that much in common. It's just not, they had kind of a season in our lives, and maybe we really enjoyed that season, but when things are done, they're done, and that's
yeah, that's how
let them go.
Right, because you don't want it then, holding on to it. And don't you feel like it can become very toxic?
Absolutely, it can get very toxic, and I think it can get to the point too where you don't have the ability anymore to go gracefully. I think you can make it so toxic that it implodes on itself, or you explode, or they explode, or people talk about when they leave a relationship, they immediately want to be friends, and and try to make that happen right away. But that's kind of one of the things I say is, like, you can still let something go gracefully without necessarily still being in that person's space and being friends right away. And you can still hold space for someone or care about them without trying to force this inorganic friendship right out of a relationship. Like, the truth is, you're going to need time to grow that. And if you don't give it time, then you can still get into something toxic, because energetically you might still be in the same space with each other, even though you don't have the title. If you're still calling each other or depending on each other, you're still in the same space, even if you don't have the label anymore. So you can still get to a point where it could implode. Someone starts dating and you're not okay with that, and then that triggers you, and now you really can't be friends. So I think it's huge to gracefully let go as much as possible.
Yeah, because I noticed that, like with some of my clients, they they break up, and then either they or the other person, texts them, or how you doing, or, and then all of a sudden they get back into that, I want to say roller coaster or merry-go-round. And now they're back into it when they should have, like, maybe just blocked their phone number, or did something to not start it again, because chances are it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be really easy to fall back into, that hopeful place, because it's what we do. We minimize it when we're like, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, or maybe they weren't that mean, but like, we minimize it, and then we hear, kind of, oh, maybe they've changed or whatever it is. But if it was that bad that you broke up, and maybe you didn't break up well, then that's really your clue, like, to give it space. Because I have an article out about it right now, about when it's okay to get back with an ex. And and that's one of the things I talk about, is that there needs to be time and space after the breakup before you should consider it, because otherwise there's just too much going on, and you're too in that space of and change on both sides takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. So if somebody comes back around the next day and it's like, oh, well, I'll never do that thing again, it's like, no, you will. Like, you haven't done
Always
anything
do.
to change it. There's no additional
Uh,
factor here. Like,
we
so
always, we
yeah.
always do it again. Always, unless we really, truly want to not do it.
Right.
And we become mindful right before we're going to do it, that
Hmm.
it says, no, don't do this.
Right. Yeah. It's a neural pathway we've created, whatever that thing is.
Mhm.
And whether it's an argument style, whether it's cheating, hitting, whatever the issue is, like, that's a pathway that's been created over years, maybe their entire lifetime. If they were a child and saw that play out, then that pathway is really strong. So unless they're doing a lot of work to reprogram it, or put something new in its place, then yeah, you're going to slip right back into that. So, I mean, that's what you hear with like abusers and stuff of like, oh, I'll never do it again. And maybe they genuinely mean that in the
Mhm.
moment, but like when things are emotionally charged, that's what they've learned to do. It's firing in their brain like, oh, incredibly stressful situation, this is what I do. And I think understanding that about, even on smaller scales, even if it's just like, this is how this person fights with me and it's toxic, unless you're both working to change those habits and have given it space and maybe therapy and whatever else, then there's just really not a point in trying to redo it, because it's just going to fall back into
The
these
full
same
back.
pathways. You've done nothing to correct them. So, I think that's where people get drawn in a lot, is we want that change. We want to believe like, if they just didn't do this thing, like it would be fine. And then here they come and they're telling us, I'm never going to do this thing again. And,
And there
you
it
know,
is. Mhm.
yeah. And it's tough, right? Like, you're really emotionally, caught up with them. And obviously all aspects of them are not horrible, or you never would have been with them to begin with,
Right.
and people are very multi-dimensional and faceted. So they have good sides, they have great qualities, but all of that gets you only to a certain place with them, as you've seen, or you wouldn't have, broken up with them.
Right, exactly. And that's why I say, listen to that intuitive side of yourself. And if it doesn't feel right, just don't do it. Don't go back.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
So yeah, and I mean it's for men and women, but I think women are more prone to maybe going back.
I think so. Yeah, I think we just, and we're very, caretaker, nurturer, a lot of ways. So we think like, oh, they need us. Like, we can help them, we can change them. We get into that, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, they have to help themselves. And, that's another one that I work with people on is, um, they're like, a lot of women are like, well, if I leave, then he's, gonna hit rock bottom. He's, gonna drink himself to death, or he's gonna do this or that. And it's like, well, then he does that. I mean, there's just like, rock bottom is where some people need to hit for them to change, and you keeping them stuck. And even if it's not as drastic as that, even if it's just like financially or emotionally, or, we all have to learn to live on our own, because things happen. People leave, people die, things change, circumstances change. Like, we all have to be able to row our own canoe. And so if someone doesn't know that, you're not helping them by keeping them from learning how to manage their stress, how to manage
Right.
their finances, their life, their moods, whatever it is. Like, you can't be the thing holding them back. They have to learn these lessons, just like we have
Oh
to
yeah,
learn
they
them.
need to take responsibility for their actions.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it's about. And don't
Yeah.
blame the other person if they're, the person's trying to be calm and, talking in a nice manner and you're crazed and screaming and yelling.
Then maybe you should be alone, like, so you can learn how to fix this behavior. Yeah. And I mean, rock bottom is such a great catalyst for change. I think we've all hit individual or
Mhm.
relationship or whatever rock bottoms. And, if you go to, you hear stories or AA or whatever, so many of the catalysts are, I hit rock bottom, and then, I'm grateful for that, because it got me to where I am. And like,
Yeah.
when I worked in CPS, if I'm dealing with you and your kid, then you're at rock bottom. Like, if the
Mhm.
state has custody of your child, like, you're at your parenting rock bottom. And,
Yeah.
you know, but a lot of parents were able to take that and as a jumping off point to bettering themselves, bettering their lives. But if that hadn't happened, they would have just stayed at this, toxic level for
Right.
however long.
Yeah, and then then nothing changes. And then
And
they,
nothing changes.
right. And then they wonder, why am I still in this? Or why am this situation hasn't changed? Well,
Yeah.
because, you didn't learn the lesson, unfortunately.
Right, exactly.
Lessons are hard.
They're not fun.
I've been through quite many of them.
Yeah.
They're hard, but that's how we grow.
That's it. That's how we get better and make better choices and live better lives ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt. Now, I noticed that I was on your website. You mentioned something about love languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What exactly is that?
Oh yeah, the love languages. That's such a dating and relationship like hot button issue right now. It's
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. So
you haven't heard it? Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a book. It started as a book, and it's kind of a whole thing now. He's written several. There's one specifically for men. I think there's one specifically for women. But his first one is just the 5 love languages. So it's how you give and receive love. And so there's 5. So you have words of affirmation, which is mine. So you usually have 1 or 2 that are like your top 2. So you have words of affirmation, which is where, you really like to hear the confirmation from your partner verbally of like, oh, you look really pretty, or, oh, I'm really interested in you, or even just, amount of communication. Like you just like a lot of verbal kind of cues and information and I love yous or whatever it is. And then you have physical touch, which is my second one. And physical touch, everyone always like, oh, does that just mean sex? It's like,
no, it doesn't.
No, everyone, all the love languages want sex, I promise you. Like, everyone wants sex in their relationship. No, so like physical touch would be like holding hands, an arm around you at dinner, that kind of thing. Cuddling on the couch, just very physical, again, affirmations of interest. And like for me, if I were to go on like 2 or 3 dates with a guy and those things weren't happening, then I would question like, oh, is he interested in me? Because it's just one of my love languages, and I would not, it's hard to understand if it's not coming through that way. And then you have quality time, which is, they kind of break it up into quality time and quantity time. They both fall under the quality time umbrella, but it would be quantity time would just be kind of like they just want you around, or you just want them around. You want to run errands together, you want to hang out, you want to kind of live your lives together. And then quality time could be more like it's not about the amount, but you want to do really good things when you're together. So it doesn't have to be huge things, but it would just be really, I don't know, like you could go make pottery together, or like, or it could be a big, nice date. It just depends. But it's just about spending that time and making it really quality. And then you have acts of service. And so acts of service would be, kind of like, it's not the most like sexy one, I guess, that people kind of put it at the bottom of the barrel, but it could be like making sure the fridge is full of food, cleaning the house, cleaning out rain gutters, putting oil in the car, like whatever it is. It's just kind of the little things, the daily things that can really show someone that you care. And that can be a huge one, for men, especially because they're the provider and they want to show you this, and this. So you see it a lot with men, which is why they got their very own love languages book, because theirs are so hard to navigate. And then the last one is gifts. And so gifts is, but there's a little misconception on that one too, because people obviously think that means like champagne, limos, diamond rings, and it can be anything. It could be making a collage of your trip to Hawaii and putting it, in the living room as a surprise. Like it could be just kind of like little things to show that, they're thinking of you. And so those are kind of the 5 love languages. And the whole premise of the book is that, you have so many couples who have different ones that are showing each other love, but they're missing it. So nobody's love cup is full. Everyone's like giving, but they're maybe not receiving, because they're just kind of crossing wires and missing how the other one's showing their love. So it's just kind of like bringing awareness to that and seeing how, you can use that in mindful dating, or if you're already in a marriage, is that something that could really change the tone of the marriage or even save the marriage? Like, that's in the book, he talks about a few examples of, where they were able to salvage the marriage from divorce because they were able to learn each other's love languages and incorporate them and work with them. And so it's just kind of a huge thing. And I will say, like, I use it obviously, and I feel like it really is effective. I'm not saying it's the entire basis of relationships, but I think it's huge as far as, if you really sit and think about what yours are and how your partner shows that, and if your partner were to not do that, what that would feel like, then you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. Like with my physical touch, if we went on 3 dates and they weren't even holding my hand, I would be confused. I'd be like, oh, are they interested? I don't know. And I couldn't have a partner that I went an entire lifetime of them not doing that, because it would just be so hard for me and distressful. And I wouldn't, if they were cleaning out my rain gutters but not holding my hand, like we would be divorced. Like I couldn't navigate that, but some people can really combine their love languages, even if they're differing.
Right.
And some people are fine settling maybe for clean rain gutters. I don't know, like everyone's different, but that's not my thing. Like, but yeah, so I think it really is helpful as a really effective dating tool and relationship tool, at least.
Yeah. And you mentioning all of them, I mean, me going back like all these many, many years, I mean, I dated like in the 60s, a long time ago, because we got married in 69. When I dated in the 60s, yeah, I used to look for somebody that was, like kid. That showed attention and, held my hand, but yet wasn't aggressive, because I didn't like that. And I guess it's probably what I'm getting at. It probably hasn't changed. But
the book has been around for, and he's older too, and he's been using this for a while. And so, yeah, I don't think so. And I think it's something we all have done, but we just maybe didn't know, we didn't have a name for it. And, we just weren't really sure how to navigate it. But yeah, to give it a name, give it a label, and kind of understand, oh yeah, this falls into this category, but I think it's just helpful, because then you can kind of know right up front with somebody, like if they know theirs and you know yours, like right away, you can kind of see it starting to play out.
And you can see whether or not you're really sort of compatible.
Yeah, because that is a big thing, because it's work, right? Like it's work to show someone love in a way that's not natural to you. So, for me, it would be, I mean, I could do it occasionally, like gift giving or whatever. And I think we all do. We tap into different ones at different times, but as far as like what your natural go-to long-term sustainable ones are, those are going to be the ones that are most natural to you. But, and you could do it, right? Like I could do it. I could get my head around, okay, this is how, my husband wants me to show love, but that would be work, right? Like that would be a lifetime of work that I'm signing up for. Like,
yes, it would be.
and vice versa, and, especially I think the physical and verbal ones can be especially tough, because those are really just kind of intrinsic. Like a lot of people are either kind of physical, or there's, that's not their comfort zone. So it's really for them going way out of their comfort zone, or like, words of affirmation, that can be really tough for people to like be that vulnerable and like outright say like, oh, I'm really interested in you, or, oh, you look really like pretty, or just even little things that can be tough for people to really just put themselves on the line. So yeah, different love languages isn't undoable, but or like not doable, but it's work. You're signing up for work. So I mean, I think for dating especially, I mean, if you're already married and you have 3 kids, then yeah, like you better figure it out. But like if you're just dating,
it all changes then, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if you're just dating, then and that's kind of what he talks about in the book, is like when you are especially when you're very first dating, you're doing all of them because you're so enamored of this person that you're packing their lunch and you're putting gas in their car and you're giving them flowers and you're telling them they're awesome and you're kissing them. Like, you're doing everything because you're just so enamored. But then when kids come and jobs get harder and people get sick, like, you know, however it goes, then the ones that aren't your natural ones are going to drop off. And if those happen to be your partners, and that's why they, you know, you have like the married couple fights, like, you don't do these things anymore, but it's like, that's not their natural, you know, love language. So they're not going to. So that's what he talks about is, you know, it helps you have long-term sustainable relationships, because if you're both, you know, physical touch, then that's going to sustain through the kids. That's going to sustain through the stress. That's going to be, you know, just where you both take comfort and fill your love cups by cuddling together on the couch at the end of the night, you know. But if somebody's love language isn't that, and it's acts of service, and you've already acts of service for your kids all day, then you might not have anything left for them, because it's not, it's taking from you instead of, you know, when you have the same love language, then you're filling each other up as you go. Whereas, you know, if you're differing, then you're taking a little bit to give to someone else.
And I think that's where probably a lot of marriages just go bad when it really shouldn't, because, you know, here's that, you know, the wife, you know, taking care of these, say, 2 or 3 kids. And by the time, you know, he gets home, she's exhausted and, you know, doing everything that needs to be done, or just, you know, if she has like infants, it's all that goo goo gaga stuff. And, you know, it's like, you know, she needs a break.
Yeah.
She needs a break. And sometimes, you know, men, you know, or women, you know, it depends on who you married to, don't understand that.
Yeah.
And feel that they're ignoring that other person when they're really not. They're so like burnt out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he talks about too that you can have different ones in how you give and how you receive. So that can get really interesting too. So he kind of dives into that. But yeah, so you can have that, you know, like men with their acts of service, they might receive acts of service as their love language, but maybe that's not how they give love, you know. And so then you can kind of get into that with marriage and stuff. If you know, he's been, you know, the wife's been giving all day and she just can't to him, you know.
Tired.
Yeah.
You know, she needs a break, you know, out of the house, not staying.
She doesn't want to pack any more lunches. Like, she doesn't want to clean anything else. Like, yeah.
So now you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so the book is Apologies I Never Got, and it's dating and relationship horror stories phrased as apologies you never got from the person who never gave them to you. And so the concept is really about, you know, self-healing, forgiveness, and kind of learning to not just accept the apologies we never got, but write them ourselves and write our own narrative about healing and recovery. Just because we don't get the apologies we deserve so often. And even if we do, they really fall short. They don't take away the pain that, you know, it's a simple fix, or we perceive it to be. It's like getting back with the ex who's doing the same things. It's a Band-Aid for, you know, the truth is that the damage has been done, whatever's happened. And the only person who can really heal that is you. You know, they can apologize, but that doesn't really take away everything.
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, that's pretty much the premise. It's, you know, mainly aimed at dating and relationship, but obviously there's apologies we don't get in so many aspects of our lives. And yeah, just learning to not keep dragging that around into the next one, because, you know, like, for example, if we were cheated on by an ex, you know, that really sits in us. And even if they came around and apologized, you're still dragging those trust issues into the next relationship if you don't do any work around them. You know, the apology doesn't take away what's been done. Right. So you have to get to the point where you acknowledge it and heal it and just let it go and learn how to work around those things, because otherwise you're dragging all this around with you and your life just gets really heavy.
Yeah, or just, you know, walk away if you feel you can't trust them anymore.
Right, exactly. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. You just have to learn how to work through some of this on your own, because there isn't a magic fix. If somebody hurts you, they've hurt you, and you have to learn how to work through that without them, because they're probably not going to be around. And if they are, and giving you that apology, I mean, what does that do? Does it, ultimately it doesn't take away anything. You maybe feel slightly better, and that's great, but the apology should be kind of the cherry on, either you get it or you don't really care, because you've moved on.
Yeah, it's a tough one though.
It is.
I bet your book is huge.
I know, there's so many. There's so many. Yeah.
I bet.
Everyone's got dating and relationship horror stories for sure. I try to keep them, like the ones in the book are a little bit on the lighter side. But I mean, it is kind of obviously a serious issue, and I am hoping with like some of the sequels to be able to dive a little bit deeper, but I kind of wanted to introduce the topic with something kind of lighter. But yeah, obviously, I mean, it's very spiritual and like spiritually infused, in the sense that it's about inner healing and forgiveness and working with your own energy, and kind of learning how to not pull in new partners that repeat the same things, and taking responsibility and control, basically.
Yeah, well, that's how we should be. Yeah, it's all, again, lessons of learning and respecting ourselves and doing what we feel we need to do for us, which is so, loving ourselves for who we are.
Yeah, because again, all the resentments, they really just hurt you. They don't hurt them. They're living their lives, and you're seething in this anger, and the only thing that's gonna make that go away is you. You're the only one who can.
That's all that it is. So do you see clients on a one-on-one basis? Like how do you work with people?
Yeah, I do kind of a reading. I call them like readings, where I have them book a session, and we do I'll do some of their astrology. I might pull like some tarot cards, and we just kind of get really deep into what's going on. I just like to have kind of all the tools in my tool belt to move forward. So it's very spiritually infused, but I kind of also, because I have worked in social work and have a little bit of that background, I can kind of feel out where someone is, if they're more comfortable with like that aspect of more of like the counseling or talking, or if they're, but I also have like very spiritual clients who want like the full on readings. And, but yeah, so they just kind of book through my site, and then we kind of work together and see where some of the blocks are. I don't love having like ongoing therapy, I guess, with them. I like to kind of do more like, let's get to the depths, let's work out a plan, and then, if they need follow-up or whatever, they can.
And that's the best way to do things.
Yeah, because I think so much of it, again, is inner work. Like I can be the mirror for that, and I can tell you what patterns I'm seeing, or what's coming up as far as like, like what I just did with you with like, oh, you're a Virgo, this is probably how you fight, like I can probably and I look at like, I do their whole chart, so I can see, all of the aspects. And then, I might pull cards to see what is coming up in their, relationship deck. And if nothing else, that at least gets the conversation going, of them being like, that does happen to me. And it's like, great, why? And like, so I think it's just more being like a conduit for, whatever healing they need. But I think we ultimately obviously heal ourselves. And so I think I just try to be more of a mirror, or just see what I'm seeing, or like, having worked with other people, this is what I've seen, or this is what I saw when I worked in social work, or this is astrologically what is the pattern, or just kind of whatever it is.
Wow, so it's a lot different than what a lot of other people do.
Yeah, I just think it's really important to combine these aspects, because I think so much of, couples therapy, relationship therapy, I mean, I just see the holes, because they're not looking at patterns. They're not looking at, I mean, I really do feel like I solve a lot just by looking at someone's chart. Like for me, like I'm in Aries, this is how I fight. Absolutely. That's how I fight. Like I'm, if someone were to come and tell me that, and, help me figure out how to manage that fighting style, that's extremely helpful. But if you don't have that information, then it's just getting to it in a roundabout way. And so, yeah, I just feel like there's holes in the traditional methods, and not that they're not necessarily useful, but I know for me in my like healing journey, I went to traditional talk therapy and that did absolutely nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
It took me going to hypnotherapy. It took me going to yoga and Kundalini and regression therapy. I mean, it took a lot of things for me to get, into my own healing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's not that talk therapy is, horrible or doesn't work or any of that. Like, of course, there are people it does work for, but it did nothing for me. And so I think people really have to be, the captain of their own ship when it comes to healing. And for me, I'm not really a stickler for like, it's this method or this method. Like, whatever I can use at my disposal to help is like what I'm going to do,
Right,
whether
exactly.
that's energy, whether that's cards, whether that's astrology, whether that's a social work term, whether it's love languages. Like, I just want to have every tool possible.
It's like a whole body, mind, spirit connection.
Exactly. And I think that's what it takes to heal our relationships, because it's about healing us. And that's what it takes to heal us, is an arsenal sometimes of different methods to see what works.
Yeah, I know, like, sometimes talk therapy, you're repeating it over and over and over, and
but there's a resolution.
There's no solution. Yeah. But so I 500% agree with what you do. I mean, I think it's a great way to help people heal through, not just relationships, but a lot of other situations in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's all tied. You don't value yourself in money, then you don't value yourself in love. You don't value yourself in, the world and how you're showing up, and everything's tied. If you're in a wound space, for me, like, I feel like a lot of my life, I really was just in this very deep wound space, part of it, of like how I grew up and family dynamics. And I spent so much time trying to get like a baseline, a foundation of like safety and love and home and comfort, and that I just didn't really feel like I got a lot of. And it's like, wow, if I just had those things, like, how much further could I have gone? I mean, I think it was personally part of my journey to be able to go through it and learn it, so I can hopefully share it with other people. But I think I can see that of, we've got to figure this stuff out, because otherwise we're just spending so much time looking for it. And, it took up so much of my time and energy for my youth. Like, I would, look for it in partners. I would try to fight with my parents to get it, even though, and it's like, once I kind of let go of like, this is never what my parents are going to be. This is who they are. And just let that go and worked on healing myself. Then I'm not trying to drag in partners to fix this wound space. Then I'm actually able to meet them at a space where it's like, what can we bring to each other's lives, and what do I actually want out of a partner? And, I just think it's huge, and it affected my life in a lot of ways. I think not just, emotionally, but like financially or career wise, like how much further could I have gone if, and I can see that with a lot of people. It just puts you in survival mode. Like, you're still just trying to fill that space or those lower chakras, or like you're just trying to get your foundations, and it just takes up everything until you can kind of get it healed. And so I think it's so much more than just, I think like dating and love gets kind of a bad rap. Like, even when I do like the tarot stuff, people will ask about like 5 other things first. And then they're like, well, maybe my love life. And I'm like, that's what you wanted from the get-go. It's okay. Like, it's huge, but we kind of like mock it and push it to the side, and like, but it's like, no, it represents everything in your life.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it? Well, this was a really interesting interview, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Where can my listeners find you?
Yeah, BethanyNicole.com is the website, and they can see some of my work, some of my other interviews, book a session, all the things. And then my Instagram is Bethany Nicole Author, and that has a lot of the links and stuff on there as well. Wow. How old are you, may I ask, if you don't mind? I'm 33. Wow, you're an old soul. Let me tell you. I am an old soul. I am a very old soul. I've known that, yes, for a very long time.
You've come around. I think you've had a lot of things happen in other lifetimes that brought you here. So,
yeah.
Wow.
It's been a journey. I can
Yes, some
say
journey.
that.
I know. Well, but that's how we we learn and fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the website again?
It's BethanyNicole.com.
You need to look this lady up. This is very intelligent for 33 years old.
Thank you.
I love old souls because you just know.
Yeah.
Know. So, well, cannot thank you enough for joining me today. Again, a big thank you to Bethany Nicole. So check out her website, Bethany Nicole. BethanyNicole.com. Well, it's a little tongue twister for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. And, and I hope that you heard what you actually, excuse me, needed to hear today. So visit me, at motivateyourlife.net, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel, The Spiritual Warrior Coach. And for those of you maybe interested in learning energy healing, check out my book on Amazon, Gentle Energy Touch, The Beginner's Guide to Hands-On Healing. And thank you again for being here with us. And everyone have a beautiful week filled with love and with light. Love, Barbara.